What is going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday, BobbyFi, with my man Jake Rohde over here, Rohde51. We have done a show together before, but we're going to try and make this more of a habit because this man really knows his stuff. He's been crushing. He keeps coming close in these qualifiers, though, so he's got a little bit of pain from the last couple nights, a couple second places, and it's great in general. It's not great in the qualifiers, but anyway, man, how are you doing today, and what do you think of tonight's slate?
Oh, doing good. It's a nice 8-gamer we got. I like these 8-gamers. We've been with some big slates lately, but it's nice to get us a little smaller one. I think you can really get different, and you won't have 5 teams going off for 10 runs on a 14-game slate and have the right bats and still not even cash. So we should have a good night tonight.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm ready to get into it. Hopefully we do well during the day slate as well, which I posted my stuff in Discord, but it's a little too late probably to pitch that. All right, let's start it off. We'll go game by game here. I'm going to share my screen. Are you able to share my screen? I know you're in the on the road sort of ish because you have your regular job. But Are you able to see my screen if I pop it up?
Yeah, throw it up there.
Okay.
I'll see if I can see it. I see you right now. So
yeah, we'll just go game by game. And started off with a game that has no total yet in Miami, Washington. Fedde and Holloway, the Holloway projected basically a Miami bullpen game-ish, I think, but we're still not really sure. Holloway did throw 72 pitches, pitched 5 innings his last start. He actually was pretty good against Philly and the Dodgers. I still really like both of these offenses tonight. There's a lot of offenses that I like though, so I'm trying to narrow it down. What are your first thoughts? And I'm guessing you have no interest in the pitching.
No interest in the pitching for sure. I don't have any interest in this game really. I do like Washington's projecting decent for the bats. They got some cheaper bats, so you can get them in there. And they're pretty explosive at times too. I mean, the bigger bats are good too. So I haven't really been looking at this game much. So I'm doing not many entries tonight. So I'm doing like one on DK and one on FanDuel. So I don't think these two are going to crack my build. But if you're looking for a good low owned team, that Washington's been hot. So definitely not the pitchers though.
Definitely not the pitchers. Washington's been hot. You have a terrible Miami bullpen, even though some people debate that they're actually decent. I totally disagree. I think both these bullpens are extremely combustible. And Soto, I mean, they've been red hot. I love Soto. Here. I love Turner as always. But Soto is probably my favorite play in the game. The Miami side, I more like to try and attack Fedde, but there's not like individual bats that I think especially stand out. I think Marte and Duvall would be the best bats, but they're expensive as well. So I have Marte and Soto as my main plays here, but I do like both parts of this game, and I'll be live later on today, I might be more fine-tuned on this, but I do have them as my 4th and 5th favorite stacks on the slate. 5th and 6th favorite stacks on the slate, which sounds like a lot, but there's a lot of stacks to like tonight, so we'll get into that.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Philly and New York. Another game we don't have a total on yet because we don't have an official. Well, I mean, we have a projection of a pitcher, and I still am not exactly sure how this is going to work out. So, given that it's a Philly bullpen game and another bullpen that I don't entirely trust, I have some interest in the Yankees here at home. I'm not getting to Philly very much. How about you?
On my stack, I might be on Philly tonight. I do like the Phillies. They project as a stack, one of the top stacks on some of my projection models that I got. So I do like them, and they're good value, and they're cheaper, so you can get them in there. And the Yankees side of things, they project pretty good. They're a mid stack, good low ownership too. So
yeah, I'll have to see how the Yankees lineup shakes out. If LeMahieu's in there, obviously gives everybody a little bit of a boost, and I feel better about them getting through the lineup and batting around a bit. It's hard because I've been sitting here talking about how the Yankees aren't as scary anymore, and it's really true. But you do have Stanton down at 4,600 now, which is a price that stands out to me. Bryce Harper is a guy who I'm always going to want some pieces of in Yankee Stadium, just with the short porch out there. Those fly balls that he hits in Washington, 360 feet, are long gone in New York. And then you've got Didi, who's just a player who's obviously a former Yankee, but made for New York. So I love Didi as sort of a weird one-off, and could be low ownership even on a smaller slate here. So I think Didi is a really, really interesting play at shortstop. I love him with the short porch out there. So those are sort of my first thoughts. I also think that you mentioned that the value and Brad Miller at 2,700 definitely he's on my value sheets today. So he's definitely one of my value plays. Real quick before we jump into the next game, I'm going to point out something from last night. I'm not going to pull it all up, but you can look at Cheese is Good. Shout out to my old friend. Guy is awesome, and he writes the best article, the best long article. I don't want to write a 2,000 whatever 10,000 however many page word article he writes every day, but it is incredible stuff. And the guy knows his stuff. He had I was watching him at the very end after we did our show, and he was scrambling because they were canceling the game he wanted to play. Obviously, it worked out for him, and he nailed it. But he did it with a 4-4 stack, and he's usually, he'll veer off that 5-3 whatever stack sometimes. And I thought it was interesting. Just he won it with a nice little 4-4 stack. Just something that I always take note of because I've been looking at the winners a lot lately. I've seen a lot of 4-2-2s. I saw one of my buddies win one the other night. It was a week ago. I think it was JSU Rab, and he won it with one of the guys I used to hang out with, I should say. I think he won it with like a 3-2-1-1-1 or something like that, which is really unlike a major tournament player, but on a full slate. I was like, what the hell is going on? But just goes to show you there are different ways you can approach this game. And I know you're a 5-man stack guy. I'll still stack 40% of my lineups, probably 5-man. But in my big buy-ins, I like to get a little different because I'm not max entry. I'm not playing as many entries as all the top guys are, all the guys like Osimo and whatnot. So I want to give myself a little bit of a differentiator. And I can't tell you how many times I've won tournaments where guys have come in at like, you get my team, my secondary stack that has a 3-man or a 4-man scores like 3 runs, but you get 3 home runs from those guys. And that's all you really need. I mean, we're playing this game for power anyway, just talking a little bit of general strategy. Boston.
Yeah, I like your.
Go ahead, Chiefs.
I like go with that. I like that. I've been seeing a lot of that weird stuff too lately, and my 5-man stack's been getting hit hard. Like just thinking about the Bogarts the other day. I had the Boston guys all hitting, but he had a 0. I put Trey Turner right there. That's 30 points plus on my side, and not 0 sitting there. So those 4-man stacks are hitting a little bit more. Yeah. I think, and getting a little bit different. I might even start leaning that way.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of doing exactly like what you just said. In that, like if I'm going to do a 5-man stack with Toronto, I might switch out Bichette and play Bogarts or play Turner or something, or Tatis instead on those slates. Just because people who are going to have that stack, or even if I do a 5-man stack, maybe leave that guy out, even thinking he'll have a good game, but using somebody else from who also has a massive upside, because most people aren't building like that. So that's the way I'm trying to get different, even in smaller field tournaments, large buy-ins. I think that's a really interesting way to go. And there is a little bit of extra safety if you're playing, and a 4-2-2 is going to cash, I think, more often than if you miss with a 5-3, for example.
Yeah, I'm either winning it or losing with my 5-3.
Right. So. But just interesting to think about for people who don't, max enter everything. And I know you don't, but your way works great for you, and then my way works for me. So it's all good. All right, this is a really interesting spot, probably the most important thing to get right of the day. Boston, Toronto. I am going to be overwhelmingly heavy on Toronto, even at pretty chalky ownership, at least. So what I do in those situations, and that's sort of why I bring this stuff up, is if I think Toronto is going to be really popular, and people used to say this about Coors all the time, when especially when they were good, you either need to fade it or play it. I totally disagree with that logic, and I am more than happy for a chalky stack to take a 3 or 4-man, or even 2 players, and maybe the 2 guys I like the most, and hopefully you get the majority of the production, and then your main stack goes off somewhere else. And that's sort of how I feel about Toronto tonight. I think they're going to be really popular. I think that I really, really, really want them. So I am going to make sure to have 2 or 3 on all of my lineups, but I don't know if I'll go a full 5 just because I think I'll be too much with the chalk. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense right there.
And on the other side, I think Robbie Ray is an excellent high variance option tonight, but I am very, very high on Boston as well. I call this Coors North. This stadium plays tiny. Obviously, the ball doesn't not move from the pitcher's hands like it does in Coors, but there is this, you have this small ballpark where the hitting, the power numbers are just out of control. Robbie Ray can get in trouble with the walks. He can get in trouble with, everything. He's been really, really good this year. Look at the teams he's faced recently compared to this Boston team. He actually was excellent against Boston last time out, but you have some lefty crushers on Boston, Hernandez, JD Martinez, obviously Bogarts, even Devers hits lefties really well. So I sort of like both sides of this game. And I'm interested to see, I don't think I have my pitching information. I think it's a neutral, actually, pitcher's umpire. But I'm sort of heavy on the Boston side, thinking maybe we can get some leverage off of the Ray ownership. How about you?
Yeah, they're coming in very good price too. I mean, Boston is projecting right there with Toronto. They're right there in the projections. I do like going Boston, but I think I'm going to find myself on Toronto too. I have won big tournaments with chalk stacks, And you know, you just got to get different. I mean, get different with the Grichuk or Gurriel at 3%. They're coming in lower owned. They hit a couple of homers. You're already different. So get off the Bichette, go with like another outfielder to pair up with Tio or something, and then you're different right there. And you can still get just as much as the points in the upside.
Yeah, and to go along, I totally agree. Like what you can do, and you got Gurriel, who has basically they're very similar power to Grichuk, and he's going to be significantly lower owned than they both will be than Teoscar. But play Grichuk and Gurriel if maybe in your outfield if you're going to do the 5-man stack.
Exactly.
And, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you're different, but you still have basically the same power upside or similar enough power upside, even though you lose a little bit of the hitting. This is a one-day baseball tournament. So those guys get walked and your guy drives in, hits a double and drives them in or hits a home run. It's just so much better to try and get a little bit different if you can, not to just play the 5 most popular guys from a stack. And just to mention on Boston, I did mention JD. JD is my favorite play of the day. If I'm in my lineups that I don't have Ray, I expect to have. I just think 4,500 is kind of a joke. This guy.
Yeah, he's cheap.
It's ridiculous, man.
Too cheap for that guy.
I mean, he's not quite Vlad Guerrero in terms of production, but this guy is an absolute monster. And I just don't get it, especially against lefties, why they won't price him up back in the 5,500 to 6K range like he should be. All right, let's move over to a less interesting offensive game in Texas and Detroit, at least less interesting for me. I think there's an argument to be made for Detroit. They've been hitting the ball well. Jordan Lyles is absolute garbage. I really, really, really like to try and pick on Lyles where I can. I know he had a couple good outings against Seattle, KC a little bit back, but he gives up. He gets into himself in trouble, mostly getting deep in counts more than the walks. He's a low strikeout guy who gives up lots of hard contact. And as you can see, he gave 4 home runs in his last game. That was Toronto, but he gives up tons of power. In general, you see a couple 4 home run games in his last 6. I could make an argument for Detroit. I just feel like there's so many good offenses. It's always hard for me to figure out how to get to them. Where do you stand with the pitching? I'm not interested in either pitcher in this game, but and then take it into the hitting.
Yeah, Detroit's been hot. They've been putting up some runs. They got a couple guys been going with some long balls too, like you said. That Lyles gives up some homers. Definitely, if you're looking at MME or want to get different, I mean, you're going to be able to get different with Detroit. I think they're coming in a little chalky. A couple of the guys, Badu, I think lead off. He's going to be chalky because I think he's cheap, right?
Yep. Yeah, Badu is really cheap. 3,300. He's on one of my value plays as well.
Yeah, he's a good value play tonight, I think. So there's a couple of good guys here. Maybe I don't think I'd get to a 5-man, but you could definitely get a 3-man stack out of this, or pick up like Grossman and Badu or something if you want to get different there. Mm-hmm. I like that idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe not a full thing, but just some complimentary pieces. I agree about. I was going to say Grossman as well, and I just in general like to pick on Jordan Lyles. So that's my argument for it. It's really. I did say that I don't have interest in the pitching. I'm just going to point out that Manning has actually so I'm not looking if you're playing a 4,100 pitcher and you want to stack up the Boston Toronto game, for example, you want to try and get 15 points. Now I know he hasn't gotten 15 points yet, but if you look at these games here, he's pitching 5 innings. He's throwing basically between 60 and 80 pitches. If he can get you 15 points and potentially there's an upside for 20 if he can get the win in the 5 innings, I think it's moderately interesting to me. Only just as a completely weird way to stack up all the best bats. Maybe not the right slate for it, but Texas is so bad offensively, and the strikeout issues that Manning has shouldn't really come into play too much from Texas because they strike out so much anyway. On the flip side, you could also argue for some of the Texas bats here. Joey Gallo obviously being the top one because his strikeouts basically take away 30% of his at-bats. You take away those at-bats, take away the strikeout upside. All of a sudden, he turns into one of the best hitters in history. David Dahl also for value. I have, even though he's struggled like crazy this year, I don't mind taking a shot on 2,300 guy who I know at least has power on paper. But I just wanted to mention Manning because I didn't want to say I have no interest. I do have him on my list of pitchers for this evening. Any thoughts on that or anybody in Texas at all for you?
Texas does strike out a lot. So, I mean, you could get the 15 easy with a couple strikeouts more than he gets normally. But yeah, Gallo's a good power hitter. Get you a couple home runs if you're looking for a good one-off there. Yeah,
I think that makes sense. All right, so let's talk about this Minnesota-Chicago game. I honestly am stuck on whether or not I want to use C's tonight. I'm sort of iffy on Pineda as well, and I actually don't mind some of the White Sox or the White Sox stack if it's going to be low owned. Cease has a 6.5 K prop today. That's pretty high for a guy on this slate. He's not the best, my favorite pitcher, but I am sort of flirting with both these guys. I think I'm leaning much more Cease than I would Pineda, but I also don't mind the offenses. So I'm sort of stuck in this game. What is your take on this one?
Yeah, Cease does look like a decent price. I don't think I'm going to get on Pineda either. So he would be someone I'm off. But the offenses could explode here. They've been hot too. Both teams have been hot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not like I don't see anybody who I think I need. Like, I don't think I'm for Minnesota. I'm going to end up really going there. But I do think if Gavin Sheets is batting second again, I'll take a shot on the power against Pineda, who gives up plenty of power. If Sheets is in fact in the top of the order like he was yesterday, I would take a shot there. Andrew Vaughn saying it could be one of them up there. You never know how the White Sox are going to shake out their lineup, and maybe Angle gets up there instead. So all those guys are like cheap options that I have, and then Brian Goodwin to go with Moncada would be my favorites if I had to play anybody. But I'm still flirting with the idea of the White Sox. I'm not necessarily in love with them. I have them sort of right in that Miami, Washington category myself. All right, let's talk about Cleveland, Houston. You're going to have the mega chalk on this slate. That Cleveland lineup is clearly not the same. I was fortunate enough to get onto enough Garcia lately after we had some weather concerns in the other game. Look, McCullers has been really good. That lineup is not, it's just not right now without Jose Ramirez. So assuming that he's out again tonight, I thought I had him as out for some reason, but I've got him in over here. I still think either way, McCullers has got to be one of the top, if not the top options on the slate. Definitely your cash game pitcher on DK, right?
Yeah, he's going to come in high. He might even be my high dollar lineup tonight on DK. I haven't been able to get pitching right a lot. I used to pay up a lot for the pitchers, but lately you've been able to get anywhere you want. But he looks like the clear guy to me tonight. So
absolutely. And then Houston is one of those teams that I usually talk about how I usually want to stack them or fade them because they used to be so expensive that that was the theory. But you have Michael Brantley as another awesome value here at 3,400. Kyle Tucker hit one out last night at 3,900. And then you've got the expensive guys like Alvarez and Altuve, who's hot right now. So I love the Houston stack tonight. I have them just below Toronto and Boston, and that's just sort of where I'm at. How about you?
Yeah, they're coming in decently projected. They're going to be a little bit chalkier, but yeah, I had them a little bit last night, and yeah, I like them again tonight. So
yeah, one of the few good things, and I did the same thing as usual. I made a little money on DK, lost a little money on FanDuel last night, and it just same thing as not usual, but what's been happening in the last 4 or 5 days. But I think that their early on projections are always higher than they end up owned, which is just something to keep in mind. I mean, really, Altuve ending up at 8% last night after we had lost, the Toronto game sort of shocked me, and he was the highest owned of the bunch. You know what I mean? Everybody else was there was all single digits. It was pretty incredible. And you have a really, really talented offense that's going to be that low owned. Correa at short, even at 4,600, I think will be a little bit, maybe you could argue that he fits into that play Toronto with Houston, but use Correa, or just play Toronto and then use Correa as your shortstop or something like that. Just crossed my mind.
Good build.
Yeah. Here we have two good pitchers. I'm not going to be attacking the offenses at all. I can't believe we're back on Wainwright as a good pitcher again. He keeps reinventing himself. It feels like every other year. Kyle Hendricks, just a guy not a great pitcher for DFS, very good real life pitcher. I'm probably off the pitching and the hitting, and this is almost like a cross me off game for me.
Yeah, I have some interest in Wainwright, but I don't know if I'll be able to have two expensive pitchers with McCullers in there, depending on, because I want to pay up for some bats tonight. So he might get off the list too. So, but he's in a good spot.
Yeah. How about any interest in the bats here for you? The Cubs kind of let me down, although they ended up getting there in the 9th inning, but they didn't really get me there enough. I ended up switching over to some Cubs stacks last night. But any interest in any of these bats? It's a little bit. I just feel like these guys are a little bit too good at pitchers, and there's plenty of great bats on the slate. So I don't have any individual bats even that stand out to me.
No, I got nothing out of this game. It might be a cross-off game in general for me tonight.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, talk Dodgers and Giants here. I actually think Urias is the second. I mean, I think I would play Urias way ahead of Wainwright personally. I think he's a much better actual real life pitcher. The Giants are a little bit pesky, and Wainwright gets the strikeout upside against the Cubs, who have the most strikeouts over the last 2 months in baseball. I am going to be all over the Dodgers tonight. And I don't even care whether Betts plays or how the lineup shakes out. It's still a very talented offense. Logan Webb has actually been so much better than I thought he would be this year, and has actually flashed some really, really big games. I just personally, I'll take the dot. You throw an average to lowish strikeout righty, although his strikeouts again have been much better this year than we've seen than I expected. But I'm very, very high on the Dodgers tonight on a short slate, and I think Bellinger, Muncy as my favorite of the plays. Nothing special there, but Pollock mixed in along with Chris Taylor, who no one wants to pay up for because of their prices. I don't think that they get the ownership as much as maybe they should. And you look at, what is Chris Taylor now? 5,500. I mean, nobody wants to pay that, but the guy's red hot. We'll see whether Muncy plays or not. And I guess I'm kind of curious to see how the lineup shakes out before I want to make that decision, but I do really like the Dodgers at first glance and Urias. How about you?
Well, I had the Dodgers last night, about 1% ownership in that qualifier, and they weren't very high owned elsewhere, and Taylor goes off for 41 points. So I just need a couple more dingers out of those guys, and we'll get into double-digit scores, and we were okay.
Yeah.
But, they're definitely an offense that I've won a lot of money with this year. They're definitely an offense that gets hot, scores a lot of runs, and low owned is when you want to play them, and they are low owned today. Definitely got some big bats, and they can go off for some big runs. So definitely interested in them. I don't know if I'll get to them today. I like a lot of those other bats, but if I was building a couple entries tonight, I definitely would have a Dodger stack, and I still might. So
yeah,
definitely like them.
Yeah, they're definitely just the pricing is going to make it tough, and then also they've got all the question marks, and then the lineup comes out late, and it just all leads to low ownership on the best or second best offense in baseball. Yeah, they're not playing in Toronto, but I really like them depending on how the lineup shakes out. I do think with Muncy and Betts and Turner all questionable, it does change things a little bit, but we'll see how that shakes out. So it's going to keep ownership even lower. Yeah, and by the way, some of these other kids they brought up are talented too. I don't think McKinstry is too bad if he does get in. Matt Beaty's got some power, so you can always.
Yeah, and he's cheap.
Yeah,
he's cheap.
All right, so let's sort of recapping. I'll just go first, and then I'll ask you sort of like your favorites. My favorite stacks in order are Toronto. I like Boston for the little bit of leverage against Robbie Ray, who I also think is worth starting. I think that you could play both sides of that one. I like the Dodgers and then Houston with some White Sox, Washington, and Miami mixed in, but mostly it's the Toronto, Boston, Dodgers, Houston are going to be my main sources of most of my players. How about you?
I got the Toronto. I do like the Houston stack. I'll probably get some combos in there. I think I'm going to go with the Phillies. As of right now, they look good. There's a couple guys in there you could play. You could do different, make your stacks a little different and lower ownership, throwing some Phillies at the value. DD we talked about. And the Dodgers, definitely big upside bats, low ownership. Good play.
Yeah, I like it. I totally am into the idea with the Phillies and Yanks too. I just I mean, it's not just there's not total. I'd sort of love to know who's actually going to be pitching, which we'll know more by later today. Before I commit to that one, and I've got my top pitchers on the slate as McCullers number 1, Urias / Ray number 2. Ray in my non-Boston stacks. I feel like Ray could still go either way. And then I've got C's next, but I don't know how much I'll be using them. I think it's mostly going to be a combination of those 3 for me, with a little bit of. Right now, I have Manning at 4,100, which allows you to get the Dodgers and Blue Jays, or Boston and the Blue Jays, or Houston and big bats and the Blue Jays. That's sort of the way I would go if I was going to do it. Is there anybody who you've got that I don't have there pitching wise?
No, that's a really good list, and I didn't initially get on to Manning, but you're right. If I'm trying to fit some of these big bats in, you're going to have to play that guy, I think. And he's not projected for much ownership right now, but we'll see how it all shakes out, because people are going to have to get some cheaper pitcher to get these bats in.
Yeah, unless we
So,
get totally random, like 2 random 2K guys like leading off, which we might get, by the way. Like Chris
yeah.
Gibbs could be batting at the top of the Yankee lineup, which would be some value savings. Not the most ideal thing, but it's something.
And you got
Um,
that Matt Betty for the Dodgers too. I think it's at 2K
yeah,
player.
Beatty, that would be a great one,
Beatty,
assuming
yeah.
that he gets in the lineup somehow, which is
Yep.
definitely possible. All right, so that's pretty much it, guys. I'm gonna be with you guys at 6 Eastern. If I can make it back from my doctor in time. If not, Sheets will be with you guys. Otherwise, it'll be both of us. Rohde, I love talking with you, man. I hope we keep doing this because I think that your general strategy ideas, I think they're really, really smart, and I want to touch more on some of that in future videos. And I like the live stuff only because we can go back and forth with the chat. But I also am happy to do these recordings. I know it's tricky for you because you got your regular job, but I really appreciate you coming on and dropping some wisdom on us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. I definitely like doing the shows. Hope to promote this pretty well. True DFS it looks like it's growing. You got a lot of people wanting to get the good plays, and we're giving them out. We're giving good strategy, and hope to continue to do it.
All right, thanks, Fran. I appreciate it. Good luck to everybody tonight, and check out truedfs.com for all my plays of the day. I'll give my exact ownerships of each team, pitcher, all that stuff, and then Sheets have been just crushing. Guy just won another League of Legends tournament. He seems like to win the one every single day. At least somebody from the site does. But anyway, good luck to everybody out there, and hopefully we see you at the top of leaderboards tonight.